Hey, everybody, welcome to interview number 11. This is Angelica P. joining us to discuss her experience with a narcissistic sociopath in a relationship that she survived. She's going to share her tips and her knowledge with you as well. If you have questions to ask her, you'll be sure to post them in the comment section below. Each of the ladies has been very good about following up and responding to your questions after the show has been uploaded. So let me get Angelica on here. Hi, lady.
Hey, hey guys.
Let's get started by introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about who you are and what's going on with you.
All right. I'm Angelica, of course. I'm 27. I don't have any kids right now, and I'm about to start my graduate program at Strayer, which is like an online university. I'm like emerging into the tech field right now, so I'm just kind of finally like getting my life back on track and have a career path that I'm working on. And
excellent. Well,
yeah,
that's definitely the field to go into.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's start by talking about your what we call family of origin. How you
Okay.
grew up. Where are you like the only kid, one of many? Just give us a little bit foundational information about you.
Okay. I am the baby of two. However, I didn't grow up with my older sister. I do have an older sister. She's about 11 years older than me, but she grew up in a different state than I did. So we still have kind of like a disconnect, but me and her are getting closer now. But I pretty much grew up an only child. When I was born, my dad and my mom, their relationship was really rocky. So the context that I put together now that I'm older, like looking back, I think that, me being born was like an attempt for my dad to stay in my life or stay in her life. And about 3 or 4 months after I was born, my dad moved to like a neighboring city. So they officially broke up. So as a baby, everything was normal, I'd say, until I was about 3 or so. And I think I recall my dad telling me that was the time that she had started to propose them getting back together. And that's when my dad had started, I guess, getting serious with my stepmother, who's my stepmother now. I think that my stepmom had just moved in. So when I was about 3 or 4, my mother started to like do a lot of like unusual and I'd say like cruel behavior towards me. Like I'd have unusual punishments. Like she'd put me in a dark room and like make me sit in a corner, if I didn't clean up right, or she'd leave me in the house for long periods of time by myself. And there were a few incidents where she, like I was smart enough to like call the police when I was younger, and my dad taught me all my phone numbers and addresses and stuff. So that was kind of rocky for a while. So when I was 7, my dad married my stepmother, and that's when the, I guess, abuse from my mom, it hit its peak. And there was an incident where she'd come home from work, and I guess she had a really bad day or something like that. And she used like a hard object. And long story short, she lost custody of me. She broke my bones. I had like a bruised rib cage. So things weren't good. Like I was being physically abused pretty badly. So the next day, I had started living with my dad and my stepmom. So
that was official. Did your dad just come and get you, or were you assigned there by the court and police or something?
Yeah, I was assigned by the court police because he was like next of kin. I went to school the next day, and this boy was bullying me for a while. And he had like pushed me on the ground, and I didn't know my arm was broken. I just knew something was wrong with my arm. So my arm was already broken from my mom, but I didn't really, I didn't know any better. I was like 7. So when I went up to the nurse had already the school nurse and I were kind of close because I had already had issues that stemmed from home that I brought to school. So she kind of figured something was up. And she knew like a 7-year-old little boy didn't have like the force to break my arm. And where I went to school, there was no like playground equipment or anything like that. So she, she just knew something was up. So it took a couple of hours for them to like get it out of me. And I told them what happened the night before. The police came, and then I went home with my dad. And I lived with him until I was 18. So things were okay when I first moved in with my dad, but then came the issue with my stepmom. I guess because I was unexpected for me to live there, like kind of overnight, I was told like in later years that I ruined her marriage with my dad. And I always felt like it was a competition between me and my stepmom for my dad.
Oh,
And
she had the stepmother when she married your dad already had a daughter. Is that what?
she does not have kids. She cannot have kids.
Well, where's the older sister come in from?
My older sister was through my biological mother. She's never really come into my life. I didn't get to know her until I got to college.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. My mom had her as a teenager and just left her where she was. And she moved to New York where I grew up, and she then had me, and that was my situation. So
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And thanks for clearing that up, because I was like, I'm so confused.
Yeah. So
okay, so the stepmother is feeling like you're a competition for your dad's attention.
Yeah. It was like that for a long time. It's better now, but I don't live there anymore. I haven't lived there since I was 18. But it was just a lot of stuff. Like when my dad would go away to work, she would have me doing all types of crazy stuff. She would wake me up in the middle of the night because he worked overnights. She would make me clean the house. I was always on punishment. She would invade, like I didn't have any privacy. She took like the door like off the hinges, so I like couldn't close my bedroom door. She was like really intrusive. My phone was taken after like 9:00 up until I was like, even when I got home from college. It was just like extreme stuff. And to a degree, I was kind of like always upset with my dad because he like never did anything about it.
Right.
Like I told him and he just let her do whatever. So my godmother, who I'm still really close with, she told me like, she knew like my situation at home wasn't great. And she was like, the only way that you can get out of this is if you go away to college. Like, don't run away. There was always this running joke, like the only way I could get out is if I ran away or if I went to jail for killing my stepmom. So she's like, don't do that. Just go away to college. And that's exactly what I did. And I've been away from there since. So
good job.
Yeah.
Okay. So now with all these different people around, who are you saying are the narcs?
I think my stepmom definitely has some narcs, but I was in 2 romantic relationships. The one that had the biggest impact on me was like my college boyfriend.
Okay, so what are we gonna call him, Mr. P?
Sure.
Yeah, we don't want to use real names, so it's just Mr. P, Mr.
Right.
B, whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about that. How old were you when you met this young chap?
I was 19. Yeah, I was 19.
And what did you think attracted you to him?
Just the fact that he gave me attention. Like when I was in high school, I went to in high school that I was a few of my kind, so there weren't many other people that looked like me that went there. And the ones that did, they didn't prefer my kind. So I never really got attention in high school, and I was big into sports. So I was like, my dad's like little boy in a little girl's body. So my dad never had to talk to me. He gave me like a really sugar-coated convo about boys. Like I was kind of like a deer in headlight when it came to like dating and like boys and stuff like that. So me going to school so far away from home and like finally getting like attention from the opposite sex was like really new to me. So he was like, he showed me the attention that I guess I never got from guys. So he was an accountant major, and he had, his car and a job. And I thought, he was established and he had himself together, and he gave me the attention I wanted. So I think that's what attracted me to him.
Okay. All right. So now you decide to start dating him.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Okay. So we started dating, and everything, like, he wanted to move everything at lightning speed, like everything. He actually, so I was living on my own. I had my own little place, and he lived in the same town, but just, we both lived off campus. So he lived like down the road from me, and everything, of course, like the first 6 months was great. I mean, he would pick me up from class. He always was, really interested in everything that I did on a daily basis. And he was like always willing to help. Like, he was just like overly, overly nice. Kind of like, the perfect boyfriend. And he had roommates as well. And he would always come over. And then like after like 2 or 3 months, he proposed this idea like, well, I'm always here. So, why don't I just move in? We could save money on rent. And, I feel like it would just make perfect sense. But little did I know that his roommates didn't really like him. They were like plotting on the side to like figure out a way to move to a new place without him being included. So I guess that worked out perfectly for him, conveniently enough. So, I'm stupid, naive, I didn't know any better. So I was like, cool, why not? So, things were okay. And then I started to like notice little things. Like, one day I was going to be late for class, and I had like an important presentation for one of my best classes that I had, and I didn't want to be late. And me and him usually walk to campus together, because I lived like in walking distance to campus. And I didn't wait for him, and he got so outrageously mad. Like, he got really mad to the fact like he didn't speak to me for a couple of days after that. And that's when I first started noticing he would get really angry about like really small things. And over time, it like progressively got worse and worse. And I started doing better in school. I made the dean's list. I made the president's list. And then my dad and I like put our money together, and they surprised me like with my first car. So like, when things in my life started to progressively get better, like he started getting more and more like angry about small things. And I'll like never forget my senior year. He had lost his job, and like the job that he had, it was like the cool job in the area that we had. So he claimed it was due to like racism, but come to find out, it was due to his terrible attitude. He had just like a really bad temper, and he didn't know how to talk to people. So he lost his job. He ended up dropping out. He just decided one day like not to go back to class and not register. And he just spent most of his time at home smoking weed, playing video games. He started contributing less and less to bills. And like, I'm working 2 jobs, and I'm taking 18 credit hours. And one day I came home, and he's like, well, when can I be the breadwinner for once? And he started like cursing me out about using my own car and like stuff like that. So things got its worst right around the time I graduated. I went home first for Christmas break, and I guess he expected me to just allow him to treat me a certain way, and I started confiding with my dad what was going on. And he didn't like that very much. So it was my stepmom's birthday, and we were going to dinner, and my dad had noticed throughout the breaks, every time I went home for break, my ex would just be really nasty towards me. He would curse me out every time I got on the phone. He would act like he couldn't do anything without me being there, like he just couldn't survive. So one day, I guess my dad got fed up with him talking to me, because he can hear me through the phone. Like, I
Yeah.
was on speaker. So he took the phone from me, and my ex-boyfriend cursed my dad out like for about 45 minutes.
Get out of here.
Yeah, like just like stuff that I confided in my ex-boyfriend, like he told my dad, and it was just really, really bad. Like I was like hysterical, and he pretty much ruined the dinner. He called my stepmom's phone. He called my dad's phone when I turned my phone off, and he just went ballistic. So I had to end up going back home, because me and him lived together after break, and I still had my final semester at undergrad. So I got there, and things were okay for like the first day or two. He just like act like everything was okay. So I pretty much told him, after the way that he disrespected my dad, that it was over. And at that point, he called my job. He was cursing my managers out. Then he sent me text messages saying that he's about to kill himself. So all the medications and everything I had in my bedroom, he started taking him. He drank peroxide. The cops came. So that was like suicide attempt number one. So finally, I told my dad how bad it got. So he drove down to where I was. And I guess, my ex didn't know that he was coming. So he found out that my dad was on the way. And he had a little bit of time to prepare. But at this point, I want to say he was in the hospital for psychiatric evaluation, because he tried to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
So the hospital released him before 24 hours, which was like a huge problem to me. Like I was supposed to have 24 hours to like get myself together so I can leave.
Right.
So he can move his stuff out and we can go. And he showed up, and my dad showed up, and his mother showed up, all like at the same time. And it was really bad. He tried to fight my dad. It was horrible. So
This dude is crazy.
Yeah, he was like really nuts. And it's weird, because I guess I just didn't see that part of it coming. I knew me breaking up with him would mean that it would be bloody and it would be bad, but I didn't know to what degree.
So how old were you at this point?
I was 22.
You're a senior in college? Okay.
Yeah, I was 22. So, we moved away. There was some stuff we had to square away as far as like belongings, but according to his mom, the day after like he moved in, he like stabbed himself in the chest, and he was like under psychiatric evaluation again. So, I finally, like a year or so later, I had finally moved away from that state. And then like the online stalking came. So I shut down all my social media profiles like right after the breakup, just for my own safety. And like a couple of years later, he started creating fake accounts to like follow me and like figure out where I was and stuff like that. I was able just like to block him and move on. But that was definitely like a really traumatizing experience for me with him. And then I met another narc like not too long after that. So
oh no.
But it wasn't as abusive. It wasn't as crazy. But I mean, it's definitely something that affected me. And because of how naive I was, like there was a couple of stuff that I used my credit to sign, co-sign him for. So my credit took a hit. So I'm just now rebounding from that as well, from like the first narc boyfriend. So there's a lot of residual stuff that has affected me over time, but I'm finally like in the right direction. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't even know what to say. Dude is just off the chain. Just way off.
Yeah.
I know your dad is just like, what in the world?
Yeah, he was. But I know me and him had a conversation, and he said he feels like he should have stepped in a little bit earlier, but he didn't want to interfere. But I feel like, just in my opinion, being that I knew so little about dating and relationships, I feel like he should have just done it
Heck
because
yeah.
like I didn't know any better.
He should
And
have stepped all up in that.
yeah,
As soon
yeah,
as you started having problems, he should have
right,
been on the scene, especially
right,
knowing that, you sent her off to college and you didn't prepare her for this. So, dude, that's your fault. So you
right.
need to get yourself down there and straighten this out and do what you need to do to protect your daughter. Since, you didn't give her no tools to protect herself.
No, he didn't. And like the more my ex realized like what little protection that I had from him, like he would start upping the ante. So like he knew that I didn't have the protection, to get myself away. And I was relatively speaking still a broke college kid, even though I worked throughout college. I still just didn't, I had to continue to be on the road to graduation. So I couldn't work, too much. I did have a
Right.
full-time job, but it didn't pay very well. I had just enough money to, support myself in the sense. So, when he found that he was losing more control over like me and stuff like that, that's when things like kept progressively getting worse. So I just, for other girls, that are in situations, make sure like you don't have kids with people like this. And, he was talking about the idea of being married and stuff like that during our relationship. Just, I felt it in my gut that something was wrong. I just didn't know it would get that bad, but I don't think that women should ever tie themselves down to people like this because you're just going to be into a lot of drama.
Well, a
And
lot of the guys, I mean, luckily for you, that didn't happen. But what a lot of them do is sabotage the woman's birth control because
yeah,
they
and
want to
yeah,
get them pregnant because it gives them a tool to control her for 18 years.
yeah. And my ex did try to do that, but I was on birth control. I ended up having to hide the birth control in my car, or at my friend's house, or like with my roommate. Um, at first he started just by like having a talk, like, well, hypothetically, what if you stop taking birth control? And I was like, why would I want to do that? I don't want to have kids until I'm married. And then, he's like, well, we can just go to the courthouse and have kids. And I was like, well, I need to graduate. We need to graduate from college first. Like, we can't do this right now. So I guess the conversation didn't go the way he wanted it to go. And he got really upset with me about it. And then that conversation was over. So then one day I woke up looking for it because I had an alarm on my phone. He knew what that alarm was. It went off every day at the same time. And I couldn't find it. And I asked him where it was. And he claimed that he didn't know. But I know I put it in the same spot every single day. It's been like that for the past, year and a half. I know something was up. So he claimed that he didn't know where it was. So he had went to work one day, and I had worked at a hotel, and I think it was like hurricane season where I was at. So they sent us home early because they were setting us up to evacuate. So I went home, got myself together, and I was actually I was going to go back home for a little while. And I looked in a garbage can, and my birth control was in there.
Get out.
And he said he didn't know what it was. He didn't know where my birth control was. So yeah, he tried it. Luckily for me, I had refills, so I
Mhm.
was fine. But I did have that conversation with him, and he just acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. And that he
Yeah.
tried to gaslight me into thinking that I was crazy and that I
Yeah.
just wanted a reason to be upset with him.
Yep. That's he's like a script. He's like a textbook case. Okay, so now you have all this wisdom, Angelica, all this experience, two narcs under your belt.
Yeah.
So you looking back at your little 19-year-old self and other girls who are in that little age group too, heading off to college or whatever, what are your warnings to them? What are the red flags they need to look out for that you didn't see in retrospect were just waving right in your face?
The love bombing for sure. Or as you say, the full court press. I mean, there's a difference between like, being consistent and being persistent with you versus somebody that just is in your face. He was definitely like an in my face, all over me type of person. And two, he also tried to like keep me from my friends and keep me from listening to my family. Like, although my parents and I didn't have the most ideal relationship when I left for college, he knew that, they knew something was up before I could realize it. So look out for people that are always trying to be in your face and trying to keep you from having a life outside of just them. They don't want you to have like any type of outside influence at all besides just them. And if they don't want you to have space, if they want to move faster than you want to move, then that's a big sign that they're probably, out to control and manipulate you, because that is what they really want to do. Also, don't, as hard as it is, I know self-esteem is different for everybody. That was something that I suffered from I suffered from low self-esteem for a really long time. I'd say to like girls that age, don't let it be known that, that you're desperate for a relationship, or that, like guys are like the center of your life. Like, be focused on your studies, finishing school, and just invest time and energy and love into yourself and not into a relationship or anything like that.
Those are all excellent, excellent ideas. And I think a lot of young women feel like if they don't have a guy, that they're a failure.
Yeah, I felt like that.
So where do you recall where that idea came from? Where you planted that seed in your head?
Well, to be honest with you, I feel like it was kind of like my dad, because I was an athlete, like all from like the age of like 4 to college. Like, I was even going to go play college sports, but I didn't want to be that close to home. I got an offer for a scholarship close to home. And, I had been playing sports my whole life, and now politics had started to come into play. I was just really tired of the politics. I just wanted to be a normal student. So sports was like that was like pretty much like the basis of my relationship with him. So like, dating and guys, like that stuff, like didn't seem to matter or didn't even come up in my relationship with him. And even still to this day, like he obsesses like over my weight. And like me staying a certain weight was always like a thing for him, and like certain skin issues that I inherently got from both him and my mother was something that they always like shined a light on. And, basically telling me like, oh, you'd be absolutely perfect if you fix this, or if you fix that, or if you fix this. And
oh my God, who does that?
Yeah. Or like, guys don't like you because you're not polished enough, or stuff like that. So, and I, when I finally got older and like look back, I realized that just wasn't the case. It just was the area that I was in, and the influence that, they had with themselves, their personal identity issues. So I think just me not feeling loved and not feeling appreciated as a girl, not just like the girl athlete, was something that attributed to like my self-esteem. And like, I think I know he suffers from self-esteem issues himself. Right. So I think it was all like projection towards me. So it was something that I battled with. But I mean, it's still a journey. I still, battle with certain things, but it's much, much better now.
Well, it sounds, that's like you're already on the road, because once you can able to talk about it and understand why you made the choices that you made, that's half the battle right there. The other half is healing the wounds that those situations created. So you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
Just the understanding of, what it went on and why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes.
This was very powerful, Angelica. Thank you.
Thank you
for stopping through and sharing your story. So how do you avoid, if say another narc appeared on the scene now, what would you do? Now you got your athleticism at work. Bob and weave, bob and weave.
Yes. I'm I feel like I'm really sensitive to the red flags. Like now, I ask questions. I ask a lot of questions early on. And a lot of them are really predictable. Like, it's kind of strange to me how they have like the same motive, but they don't like try different tricks. I don't know. They're all pretty predictable. So if you ask certain questions and you do certain things, you can kind of pick out the red flags. You can pick out when somebody tries to triangulate you from your friends and family, or if they're trying to move too fast, or if they're trying to hide things about themselves. Like something that I always notice, if they're always trying to fish out information from you, but they don't reveal anything about themselves, like that's an issue. So when I see certain things like that happening now, I just cut them off and keep moving.
Do it, girl. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think a lot of young women, I'm constantly trying to get them to understand why they need to do this. Stop telling men everything. They want to be telling them like the PIN numbers to their bank accounts and giving them, keys to their house and doing all this stuff. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. He ought to have his own money and he ought to have his own place. He don't need to be having the key to yours. You're not married. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. That's something you taught me too, to like, shut up.
Yeah. Girl, I'm trying to tell you, I don't say nothing. Or if I do, it might be a fable. It don't sound good, but that don't mean it's the real deal because it's a test.
Yes, absolutely. I've done that before too, telling them something that like really affected me, that like something about animals or something like that, that I had like a soft spot for animals. And they tried one time, this person like sent me some like animal killing video or something, like, look at this, I guess just to see how I would respond. And I'm like, this person just tried to trip me up.
Bingo. See, that's what I mean. So it's like you tell them something, but it don't have to be, the real thing. But it's a good way to test. That was excellent. Look at you. So proud of you. That's what I'm talking about. Good job.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you go. So one would be taking up all your time because we could just sit here just chopping it up forever.
Well, quarantine, I got nothing but time, but time to go work out.
I know, huh? I'll be tipping outside though, because I looking around to see who's looking, jump in my car and go somewhere. But
True.
I can't stay in the house for too long. That makes me feel weird. I start getting like a caged lion, just pacing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you once again, and I really appreciate it. Be sure to come and visit on the wall, after the video's up, and because people might have comments or questions for you.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.